Good evening, my wonders. How have you been? I hope you've been well. I'm so glad so many of you liked my last video. Yes, well, I could not help but notice that you liked it. Yes, I'm here to read. Well, not read, but tell you a story that I personally have had a little bit of interest in. It's about Briar Rose. Do any of you know who she is? Well, she's a wretched girl, I wouldn't believe her. But if you don't know who she is, her parents didn't decide to invite me to that little party that they were having, because apparently there was harsh feelings, and I don't appreciate it very much. But nonetheless, I will tell you the story, my version of the story that they have ruined. A long time ago, you see, there lived a king and a queen, and the king had raised his boy, and the boy ended up falling in love with me. And he would come visit me in the marshes every chance that he got, because he was a wonderful boy. He loved me more than I think I've ever seen anyone love anyone. But that wretched little boy took my wings away from me. But anyway, more on that later, don't you worry about it. Well, they made the wrong choice and had a child. And I wasn't invited. How rude of them. Anyway. It happened once ago that the queen was bathing, that a frog apparently crept out of the water onto the land and said to her, "Your wish shall be fulfilled. Before a year has passed, you shall bring a daughter into the world." And the frog's words came true, as we all know. The queen had a little girl who was so beautiful that the king could not contain himself for joy. He had prepared a great feast. He invited his relatives and his friends and acquaintances, but not his exes apparently, and also the fairies, except for me, an acquaintance. They wanted to bestow kind and favorable wishes on this little girl. The king had only 12 golden plates for them to eat from, so one of the fairies had to stay home. Don't believe that at all. That is not why he didn't invite me. I thought there was one more plate. Little liar. But anyway, that's another story for a longer time. The feast was held with all its splendor. When it came to the end, all the fairies and all presented the child with a magical gift, as you know happens. One gave her virtue, another beauty, and third riches, and so on, and with everyone in the world that she could wish for. When the 11 fairies had to say, the 13th suddenly appeared. Oh, that is me! Oh, I'm so happy they at least mentioned me. You'd think they might do more. But no. She wanted revenge for her not being invited. I mean, really, though, who doesn't just not invite someone? Clearly everyone in the kingdom is invited, and you didn't invite one person and you thought I wouldn't hear about it. That is such a rude thing to do. Well, I didn't greet anyone, you see. No, I didn't even glance one person at the company. I said in a loud, rumbling voice, "The prince shall prick her finger with a distaff of her 15th year, and shall fall down dead." And without another word, I turned and left the hall. Everyone, of course, was terror-stricken, which is just what I wanted, really. But the 12th fairy had to jump in. Well, she didn't have her wish spoken, apparently, yet, and she stepped forward. She could not cancel the curse, but only soften it. So she said, "It shall not be in death, but a deep sleep lasting 100 years, into which your daughter shall fall." Well, the king was so anxious to guard his dear child from the misfortune that he sent out a command, and the distaffs in the whole entire kingdom, they should be burned. As time went on, all the promises of the fairies came true, and the princess grew up so beautiful, and modest, kind, and clever that everyone who saw her could not help but love her. Now, it happened that one very day she was 15 years old. The king and queen were away from home, and the princess was left quite alone in the castle. Oh dear, whatever shall she do? She wandered over to the whole place, looking at rooms and halls as she pleased, and then last she came to an old tower. She ascended a narrow winding staircase, and reached a little door. A rusty key was sticking in the lock, and when she turned it, the door flew open. In the little room sat an old woman, me, that is me, and I had a spindle spinning my flax, busily, of course. She said, "Good day, Granny. What are you doing?" And of course I said, I'm spinning." "What is that thing that whirs round so merrily?" she said. Of course, and I took the spindle and tried to spin a little bit for her, but then she took it and tried to spin it, but she couldn't, of course. But she had scarcely touched it before my curse was fulfilled. Thank you. That is so wonderful, isn't it? Yes, ma'am. Well, she pricked her finger with the spindle, you see, yes. She instantly fell, and she fell upon a bed which was standing near, and lay still in a deep sleep which spread over the whole castle. The king and queen had just come home and stepped into the hall and went to sleep, and all their courtiers with them. The horses went to sleep in the stable, the dogs in the yard, the doves on the roof, even the flies on the wall, because I am that powerful, thank you. Yes, even the fire flickering on the hearth grew still and went to sleep, and the roast meat stopped crackling, and the cook, who was pulling the scullion's hair because he had made some sort of mistake, let go and went to sleep. The wind dropped onto the trees in the fall of the castle, and not a leaf stirred. But round the castle on the hedge of briar roses began to grow up, because I thought it would be a good idea. Every year it grows higher until at last it's surrounding the entire castle, so there's nothing could be seen of it, not even the flags on the roof. Isn't that marvellous? I think it is. I did a good job. I did. But there was a legend in the land about a lovely sleeping briar rose, as the king's daughter was called. And from time to time princes came and they tried to force a way through the hedge of the castle, and they found it impossible, for the thorns, as they had in their hands, and held them fast, and the princes remained caught with them, out unable to free themselves. And so they died a very miserable death. Well, many years, a prince came again to the country and heard an old man tell him the castle which stood behind a briar hedge, in which a most beautiful maiden called Briar Rose had been asleep for the last 100 years, and with her king, the queen, and all their courtiers. He knew also from his grandfather that many princes had already come and sought to pierce the briar hedge, and they remained caught in it and died a very sad, lonely, miserable death. Isn't that fascinating? Then the young prince said, I am not afraid, and I am determined to go and look upon the lovely Briar Rose. Such true love and whatnot, I don't know. That doesn't exist, but apparently it does in their story. The good old man did all of his power to dissuade him, of course, but the prince would not listen to his words. Now, however, the 100 years were just ended, and the day had come when Briar Rose was to wake up again. But the prince approached the briar hedge. It was in blossom, and was covered with beautiful large flowers, which made way for him on the road accord and let him pass unharmed. I didn't really think about that one when I had made my choice, really, I suppose. And they closed up again in the hedge behind him. And in the courtyard he saw horses and bridled horses lying around. On the roof sat the doves with their heads under their wings, and when he went to the house, the flies were asleep on the wall, and near their throne lay the king and queen. In the kitchen was the cook, and his hand raised as though to strike the scullion, and the maid sat with a black fowl in a lap which she had been about to pluck. He went on farther, and though so still he could hear his own breathing. At last he reached the tower and opened the door a little room where Briar Rose was asleep, and there she lay, looking so beautiful that he could not take his eyes off of her, and he bent down and gave her a kiss of some sort. As he touched her, Briar Rose opened her eyes and looked lovingly at him, I suppose, although I don't think I would personally like that happening to me, but then again, they went down together out, and the king woke up, and the queen and all the courtiers, and they looked at each other with astonished eyes, because someone just had to cast their little fairy spell to make it so that she didn't die, but we'll get into that later soon. But anyway, the horses in the stable all stood up and shook themselves, and everything woke up basically. I'm not going to go into detail with that, but apparently they had a wedding. The prince and Briar Rose were celebrated with all splendor, and they lived happily till they died. Well, isn't that a lovely fake story of the way it went? Oh well, that's a story for another day, isn't it? Well, my little lovelies, I hope that I was able to shed a little bit of light on the real story of what I had done. But, of course, I can't tell you all of that. It would take much too long, and such a long time. But I hope we get to discuss soon those things that happened. Until next time.